Hi, my name is Lauren and I have something called an axonal neuropathy. We're currently looking into a proper diagnosis of Charcot Marie Tooth disease, which is, I have a little printed thing out here because I'm horrible at remembering exact words, and this is something that has a decent amount of big ones, so I thought it would be a good thing to have something here. Charcot Marie Tooth disease, also known as CMT, is a group of inherited neurological disorders that affect the peripheral nerves, which are the nerves outside of the brain and spinal cord. It primarily impacts motor and sensory nerves, leading to muscle weakness, atrophy, which is muscle wasting, and loss of sensation, especially in the legs and feet. Over time, it can also affect the arms and hands and other parts of the body. CMT is caused by mutations in genes that are involved in the production of proteins necessary for the proper function of peripheral nerves. The condition is usually inherited in an autosomal dominant or autosomal recessive manner, meaning it can be passed down from parents to children. But it doesn't have to be that way. I don't think either of my parents have it. So I might just be one of those fun cases where it just shows up. Symptoms of CMT typically appear in adolescence or early adulthood and progress slowly over time. Oh my gosh, my words today. I'm so sorry. Common signs include difficulty walking, foot deformities, like high arches or foot drop, loss of coordination, and diminished sense of touch. There's currently no cure for CMT. The only thing that people can really do right now is manage their symptoms, and there are usually a lot. So my story, how this kind of all began, is a long one. It started back when I was a pretty little kid. I was a toe walker, and I had high arched feet as a young kid. Yes? Sorry, my grandma just came in to give me licorice. So anyways, where was I? Oh, my story. Okay. I was a toe walker as a little kid, and I also had high arched feet, which is not normal. Little kids, like below the age of 8 or so, should not be having high arched feet and hammer toes, and I did. Not okay, not normal, but we didn't think much of it. We just thought, oh, it's Lauren's body. That's just Lauren. She's fine. But that mixed with the severe inflexibility and me never really running or jumping and just having horrible body coordination and balance and all that fun stuff, we just thought it was me, and we didn't really look much into it. Until I turned 11, and it was the summertime, and had a swimsuit on, and we were at the beach, and I needed help putting sunscreen on my back, as children do. And I walked up to my dad, and I'm like, hey, can you help put sunscreen on my back? And he was like, yeah, sure. Just lean forward a little bit. And I did. And he saw my back, looked like this. It was from my spine, half of my rib cage was higher than the other side, and he was like, that doesn't look okay, because my dad has scoliosis too, but it's mild. So we got me checked out. I was 11, about to hit puberty, which is when you grow the most and when your spine typically curves the most. And I got diagnosed with scoliosis. But it was a mild curve, and this was during COVID, so things were super backed up anyways. And the medical system just kind of dropped my case. They were like, yep, you have scoliosis, do physiotherapy if you want to. Nobody really wants to, but if you want to, and just left us there. That was it. We didn't really know much about any of this at the time. Signs we should be looking out for, anything else that would be important, but that's where we were left. So life went on. It continued to get more difficult for me. Like, the pain continued to increase over the next couple of years, and I could feel the curve increasing, if that makes sense. Like, I could feel my spine regularly. And I feel like your brain shouldn't mentally, like, feel your spine all moments of the day. So yeah. And I completely lost the ability to run. If I try to, I will faceplant. So I got pardoned from PE early in grade 10, thank God. It was bad. Like, my PE teachers were getting me to go on these huge runs with the rest of the class. And I'd tell them I had scoliosis, because that's the only thing I knew I had at the time, and that it was bad for my scoliosis. And they would push me and say, hey, running's gonna help you. Running's good for your scoliosis. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Don't mind that. That's my grandparents next door. They're okay. They're okay, I promise. I promise they're okay. Anyways, my back was like this. So you're telling me if I run, it's gonna, like, it compresses. It compresses my spine, and that does not feel great. So no, Mrs. PE teacher, I will not be running with my spine and my legs that do not work, because I was then starting to tumble over them completely. I felt like a baby deer when I was walking and running. It was horrible, very bad. So walking became very difficult. Going upstairs, because now I can't lift my leg high enough to clear the stair. If I didn't have a railing, I'm not going up those stairs. Recently, I was able to get an elevator pass at my school, which is incredible. But the thing is, I don't look like I have a disability. I mean, there isn't really a disability look, but I can't really walk, and just by looking at me, it doesn't look like there's something wrong with my legs. Unless you look at my feet. That's another story. They're messed up. But my legs, like, I'm just walking in public, like, I look normal, besides I've got a bit of a limp sometimes, but I look like a normal human being. So when I use the elevator pass, I get weird looks from people that are like, what's wrong with you? You seem fine. And this just kind of progressed. This just kind of continued, and my body continued to get worse. And finally, I was able to get referred to somebody in Victoria who worked, I think, a sports injury specialist, she was. Which is weird, because I know I don't do sports, and it's not really an injury, but hey, she got us somewhere. She was the first person to kind of be like, okay, A plus B equals C, and are caused by D. So it's like trying to figure out the different pieces, how they connect, what causes them individually, and just actually seeing my body as a whole instead of the individual pieces. And at this point, I'd finally got orthotics for my shoes, and these things are massive. So it's like I'm walking in heels all the time just so that I can walk properly. If I don't have them, I fall backwards. I full on fall backwards because, like, foot drop has hit me so bad. So your foot is like, like this on the ground, right? Mine is permanently like this. So I need something here so that I can, like, horrible demonstration, but so that I can walk, I need the ground to meet my heel, because my heel won't meet the ground. So I had orthotics. So this doctor was like, okay, take your orthotics out of your shoes and walk down that hallway and back. I'd done this like 30 million times at this point, and I was like, okay, here we go again. And I'm like stumbling over my feet, and I'm wobbling all over the place, and I remember turning around and walking back, and she looked at me like, she looked very concerned, because I was like a 16-year-old who couldn't walk, which is something that 4-year-olds are supposed to be able to do. So Then she proceeded to check my reflexes, and they didn't work. Like, she even went to get a bigger one of those hammer things to hit my knees even harder, and they still didn't move. And I remember apologizing, like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't do the thing. And she looks at me and she's like, what do you mean you didn't do the thing? I'm like, oh, I didn't move my knee when you hit it. And she's like, have you been doing that consciously, like on purpose? And I'm like, yeah. I remember in like that, I forget what it's called, that children's TV show where there's like the doctor and she's working on her stuffed animals. And she does the reflex things. The stuffed animals move their limbs. And I'm like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'd been faking my reflexes for 16 years. Faking my reflexes, which was a fun thing to learn because it makes sense. Like, my reaction time is horrible and my reflexes are bad, so it makes sense that I'd be faking them without even realizing it. Nice, I know, right? So she kind of thought that it had to do with like nerves based off of what she'd seen. So then she referred me to one of her colleagues, a guy who specialized in like neuro stuff. I went back up to Victoria to see them a couple weeks later, maybe a month or so. And they hooked me up to all these like electrode things, I think they're called. And were basically just shocking me. Like, they got these little sticky things and would attach them to me at like different points and then shock one of them to see how well the signal would go through to the other. And for starters, I couldn't feel it. They were shocking me like pretty decently hard, and I couldn't feel it. To the point where the doctor took the shocky thingy off of me, put it on himself to try to shock himself to see if it was actually working, and when he did, he jumped out of his seat. It hurt so bad. And yeah, that's really not good. So he came to the conclusion that it was an axonal neuropathy, and that's just kind of been the label I've had for a couple of months now, like about half a year. Yeah, half a year or so, since November, I guess. And I was just kind of getting sick of, okay, one step at a time, but every step is like 5 years apart. Like, I was wanting answers. So me and my research-loving brain decided to go on the internet and look up different kinds of axonal neuropathies. And eventually, a couple of hours of research later, I came across Charcot Marie Tooth's disease. And let me just tell you, I cried. The first story I read about it was this woman who was talking about her experience about it and how it just kind of came out of nowhere, but there were like signs that it was going to start sooner. And it was just, I connected with her story on a deeper level than I've ever connected with anything in my life, because this was the first person that's ever talked about going through something that I'm actually also going through. Like, I live in a smaller town, and I don't know if there's many other people in this town that have this, and if there are, I don't think any of them know that they do. So it's pretty lonely. I was supposed to be going to the CMT Association's Camp Footprint, which is like a youth camp where 10 to 18-year-olds go. It's somewhere in the States. Like, they have two different locations. One's in Pennsylvania and the other one's in Oregon, I think. But I was supposed to be going to one of those this summer, and I'm no longer doing that because of fun political reasons, because I live here in Canada, and going to the States would not be the greatest idea right now, unfortunately. So I would have been going to that and meeting other people like this finally, which would have been amazing, but since that's not happening, I'm trying to find other ways to connect with youth who have invisible disabilities or have CMT and don't really have anybody to connect with themselves. Like on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and all these different platforms, I had a really hard time finding other people who were dealing with this, who were like posting videos about it, like, this is what I recommend, and this is my story, and this is like things that I've gone through, and these are the things that I've done to help. There weren't very many people out there doing stuff like that, and the people who were, I'm very grateful for, because they helped a lot, but I just wish there was more of that. So grade 11 comes around, but I'm doing a grade 12 English course right now, which is when you do your capstone project. So I'm doing my capstone right now. And I decided that I am going to do or make what I wish I had back when I was learning about CMT and figuring out what was going on with me. And I hope that this can find somebody else who was in my situation a few years ago, like who was in the same situation that I was in a few years ago, and help them figure out what's going on and help them feel less alone, and like they know where they can look to find solid information on how to help themselves and what's going on with their body, because it can be confusing and it can be scary. It can be very, very scary when you're a teenager who's less physically able than their 70-year-old grandparent. So that's me. This is me here connecting with other people, hopefully, who have disabilities or have loved ones who have disabilities, because it's a big world out there and there's a lot of us out there, and let's be more connected, and let's figure out how we can get through this together and make the world a brighter place together.